welcome into Texans today, everybody. I'm your host, Jeremy Chuggs, and on today's show, how the Texans injury report is going to directly impact how DeMeco Ryans, this front office, this coaching staff, they go into week one up against the LA Rams. I'm going to tell you what these injuries mean and how they're going to circumvent some of these injuries. Maybe some rookies have some bigger roles in week one. First, let's go to the injury report from today. The Texans PR team just released it. Braxton Berrios, Christian Kirk, Cam Robinson all did not practice today for your Houston Texans. This is big. Two guys in the slot, kind of play the same positions. Both are return guys, so did not practice on Wednesday, did not practice on Thursday. Big there. And then also on the offensive line, Cam Robinson did not practice. And then Blake Fisher, Ed Ingram, both listed as limited participants in today's practice. And the fact that Braxton Berrios, Christian Kirk did not practice, where, Cam Robinson, they already told you Ariante Ursary is going to start at left tackle. But those two guys were supposed to have a somewhat decent role in this Texans offense, especially in the wide receiver room. And this nugget from Jonathan M. Alexander, good follow on X if you are a Houston Texans fan, works for the Houston Chronicle. He said last year, if players didn't practice on Thursday, they didn't play in the game. Only once last year did a player not practice on Thursday and then play in a game on Sunday. So very important to kind of note right there, the fact that those guys did not practice on Thursday. And we also have some more injury news from Christian Kirk and Braxton Berrios coming up in just a moment. But I have a quick question. After hearing that from Jonathan Alexander and after seeing what I told you about the injury report, will any of these guys play on Sunday? Give me a yes, give me a no down in the comments section if you think any of these Texans who are injured right now are going to play on Sunday. I'm going to say yes, but only for a couple of them. I think Christian Kirk, Braxton Berrios, well, I know Christian Kirk is not going to play because all the reports now indicate Kirk will be out week one up against the LA Rams. Braxton Berrios kind of on the fence. Cam Robinson a backup. So whether or not he's suited up, I don't know how much, you weigh in on that. But then you have Ed Ingram as well. I suspect Ed Ingram to be good to go on Sunday, but like I said, they listed him as limited with an abdomen injury. Speaking of the Texans injury news, this coming in from Aaron Wilson. There's optimism that Braxton Berrios' hamstring injury will be relatively short-term absence per sources. So maybe he's able to come back for Sunday, or maybe he's only out for this week one matchup. This is the part where you need to look at right here. The Texans will have rookie Jaylen Noel filling in the return game and in the slot, but Christian Kirk out-estimated 1 to 2 weeks with a hamstring injury. Now, this was a big reason why the Jags ended up, they were going to cut him before they traded him to the Houston Texans, and that was why, a guy of his caliber and his skill set went for so cheap, because he had a lot of injury concerns. So, looks like we won't really see Christian Kirk maybe for the first couple weeks of the regular season. Maybe they end up, pulling up one of these practice squad guys. They have 3 guys on the practice squad right now that are at the wide receiver spot that could end up getting moved up to the active roster come Sunday up against the LA Rams. Those 3 guys, as I'm looking on my screen right now, Silas Bolden, Josh Kelly, Jared Wayne are the 3 practice squad guys that I'm looking at to see whether or not that they will play. But coming up, what does this mean for the Texans? I'll let you know what it means and what we could be seeing this Sunday for your Houston Texans up against the LA Rams. And speaking of this Sunday, I'll be live week one. 3:25 kickoff Central Time. I'll be live for this game. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you're here as we root on our Houston Texans week one up against the LA Rams as they try to take over SoFi Stadium. They already gave the uniform combination for your Houston Texans, which sneakily my favorite. They're going all navy. The monochromatic all navy look, I absolutely love it. That's what they wore up against the Chargers in that playoff game. My favorite jersey combination for the Texans personally. But speaking of this Sunday, we also have a giveaway this Sunday, and I am a man that likes to make some deals. So the first 20 people to share today's video and tag me on X, you're getting free raffle tickets on Sunday. All you got to do, click the share button underneath this video, post to X, and then tag me at Jeremy Chuggs. If you do that, more than likely you're getting a free raffle ticket this Sunday. So let's go back to the injury report. Let's look at, the 5 guys that were listed by the Houston Texans. And by the way, the Rams also, released an injury report yesterday. They only had 1 guy on there. Alaric Jackson, they listed with an illness. So definitely a, discrepancy between Texans injuries and Rams injuries. But the main concern is the wide receiver room, right? These 2 guys, Braxton Berrios, Christian Kirk, did not practice. And as we look at this wide receiver room, they did keep 7. They did keep 7 guys in the room. And even though I suspect that Christian Kirk, when healthy, is the wide receiver 2 for this team, it's a little troubling, right? Because you have Jaden Higgins, you have Jaylen Noel. Both guys are rookies. You also have Justin Watson on the squad. And as I mentioned before, there's 3 practice squad players that you could end up moving up. You have Silas Bolden, Josh Kelly, and Jared Wayne. Those 3 guys on the practice squad you can elevate to the active roster come week 1. And if you're like me and you don't know all the NFL rules around the practice squad and, the procedures and everything, I got you covered. Here's the NFL rules on calling players up to the practice squad. NFL practice squad players can be elevated to an active game day roster up to 3 times per season to participate in a game. The team can elevate a maximum of 2 practice squad players each week. If a player is elevated a 4th time, they must be signed to the full 53-man active roster. After the game ends, the player reverts to the practice squad. During the playoffs, practice squad players have unlimited elevation. So obviously during the playoffs, you can move as many guys up as you need in that terms. But in my opinion, the most likely move is Jared Wayne. He played 3 games last year for the Houston Texans, was on the practice squad. Kind of that rule we talked about. You can elevate a guy three times. The 4th time, have to sign him to the active roster. So they kind of kept Jared Wayne practice squad, elevated him when they needed, and then come playoff time, he was elevated once again to the active roster. I think that's the most likely move. I know a lot of people, especially with the 2 guys being in the slot, would like to maybe see a Silas Bolden, the former University of Texas Longhorn. But I just don't think he has, not that he's not as good of a player as Jared Wayne. They kind of have 2 different game styles, but he hasn't been around the team. He hasn't, been with the offense long enough. They trust Jared Wayne. He was with the squad last year. I think they go with the guy they know in Jared Wayne. I think that's the most likely move they do in moving somebody up. Now, coming up, one player that could go absolutely crazy on Sunday with all these injuries that the Texans have. I'll tell you who that is in just a moment. But today's show brought to you by our friends over at PrizePicks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app out there. I love PrizePicks, and I know you will too, because this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. You and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on PrizePicks, where it's good to be right. PrizePicks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. PrizePicks offers Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits into your account this football season. And speaking of this Sunday, here's my lineup. I'm going C.J. Stroud, more on the rushing yards, 11.5. I think he's going to have to use his feet a little bit more this season. Matthew Stafford been dealing with the back injury, so give me the more on his 0.5 interceptions. This Texans team, they were 2nd last year in turnovers. Yeah, give me the more on that. And then Nick Chubb, he's the feature back with Joe Mixon out. So 43.5 rush yards. Yeah, I'm going to go the more on that as well. You can use my lineup or go ahead and make your own. Just do it over at PrizePicks today. Download the PrizePicks app and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Now, I promised you one player that I think is going to go absolutely ham this Sunday, and it's the rookie, Jaylen Noel. I know Jaden Higgins, I'm really high on him as well, but when we're looking at who's going to fill that slot role, it's going to be Noel, the rookie out of Iowa State. He predominantly plays in that slot, known as what Nico Collins would say, a slot demon. Kirk and Berrios both work out of the slot, and I would say Noel has been very impressive during preseason, during training camp. Could he show out this Sunday? Because I know a lot of people are somewhat skeptical because Noel, a lot of the times during the joint practices, during training camp and this, that, and the other, he was running with the 2s. Now this is the big time. This is the big show. He's running with the ones. And I think he has a massive opportunity ahead of him. And I think Noel is ready for the challenge. He's somebody who, when the Texans drafted him in the 3rd round, I thought it might have been the steal of the entire NFL draft. Because this dude, he put some massive numbers up for the Cyclones over the past 4 seasons, especially in 2024 when he got almost 1,200 yards, 8 touchdowns, 14.9 yards per reception. I really do believe in Jaylen Noel. And just a cherry on top, it's Jaylen Noel's birthday today. As I'm filming, Jaylen Noel, happy birthday, young fella. Go down and spam those HBDs for Jaylen Noel, and maybe he gets that birthday week magic. Maybe he's feeling nicey as he heads into SoFi Stadium this Sunday. But speaking of the wide receiver room, this is a great example. The Texans, they double-dipped at wide receiver in the 2025 NFL Draft. Also, in free agency, they went out and signed/traded for 3 other guys in that wide receiver room. And my thought process is last year, they kind of got burned, right? They had the top-heavy room. They had the 3-headed monster and Nico Collins, Tank Dell, and Stefon Diggs. But the depth really wasn't as good last year. And I think they saw that and said, hey, we need to elevate the entire room as a whole. We need to get better depth guys a la Jaden Higgins, Jaylen Noel, maybe even keeping Xavier Hutchinson on the squad as well. So I think the fact that they have a more well-rounded wide receiver room is going to really help them going into this Week 1 matchup up against the LA Rams. That's all I have for you on today's show, folks. Once again, if you want a free raffle ticket, share today's video. Tag me on X at Jeremy Chuggs. And if you made it to the end of today's video, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you don't sub, I just assume you think the Texans are going to lose. So if you think they're going to get a dub on Sunday, go down and hit that sub button.